Christ is on his way back.
The faster the deliverance, the faster.
Hello you demons and happy Friday. Now I hope you're all ready because today we're going to be opening up our scriptures and turning to the page on bizarre and strange cults. Nowadays you don't have to look too hard or maybe even too far to find a cult. Some of the ones that we're going to be talking about today though, you're going to want to stay very far away from. Which is exactly why I'm going to be talking to you about them from the comfort of our homes. Now, I know this is a very popularly discussed topic amongst the horror true crime communities, which is exactly why I have decided to do some real digging, and I guarantee there is at least one or two things about cults or cults themselves you may not have known about. But enough hyping up this video, let's jump right in with my personal favorite, the snake handling church. Deep in the rural parts of the Appalachian Mountains lie the Pentecostal churches of snake handling. In the far and distant past of 1910, a very interesting man known as George Hensley began his church of snake handling off the scripture Mark 16:18. Their literal interpretation states that they will not be harmed by handling snakes or poison and therefore should not fear them, so long as their devotion is strong and pure. But as we both know, snakes don't care if you go to Sunday service or not. But this hasn't stopped the followers at all from handling venomous copperheads and rattlesnakes like pool noodles. But I can already hear you, hasn't someone been bit or someone has to have been bit? And yes, they have. Multiple, in fact. However, the church justifies this as a punishment for the handler's sins, and those bitten are even shunned. And of course, this practice is not only illegal, but has led to multiple deaths, some by those who have even denied help.
But now if it's their appointed time to die, there's nothing I can do to prevent it.
But who's crazy enough to start a cult like this? Well, I'll tell you exactly who. George Hensley. Now buckle up because Hensley's backstory gets crazy really fast. He was an illiterate ex-moonshiner who decided to go on the straight and narrow and preach the gospel. Now, while he was a pastor and preaching the gospel, some hooligans decided to throw some snakes at him. But him, being the totally sound-minded person he was, he said, you know what, I'm gonna refer to that Mark scripture and lift up these two snakes like pool noodles. And everybody was so impressed by this that they just doubled down and they're like, wow, that's the best miracle I've seen. So fast forward a few years, he's still preaching the good word, and one of his neighbors gets really jealous of him and decides, I forget how, there's an altercation that happens where George gets severely injured. Then he goes into the hospital, loses a lot of money, and realizes, hey, maybe I should get back into moonshining. So that's what he does. He gets back into moonshining, and not only that, but he gets arrested, thrown in prison, then, when he's on a chain gang, proceeds to escape said chain gang and go back to being a pastor in his snake handling church. Right? All of this to finally be done in by the very thing that started him off, the snakes themselves, biting him and killing him at age 75.
I'm in heaven now. So sorry I died. I miss you so much.
I think it's extremely fitting to have a pastor just as insane as the practices of the church. Mind you, some of those practices are still happening today in some rural parts of Appalachia. Have you guys ever been to one? Let me know. Let me know down in the comments. How was it? Did you get to hold a snake? I hope you didn't get bit. Moving on to our next one, and similar to our first cult, this next cult was actually started around the Tennessee area near the Appalachian Mountains, however has now expanded to multiple locations across the globe. In 1972, a simple Bible study group became a communal living arrangement with a new denomination of Christianity, believing all others had fallen from the path of God. Thus, the cult of the 12 tribes was formed, or more commonly known as the Yellow Deli cult. Most of their teachings revolve around Hebrew and Christian fundamentalism, but what makes them so strange? Well, that actually lies within their more common name, the Yellow Deli cult. The name refers to multiple of the deli locations that help fund these cults' activities. You can actually get a glimpse of their ideology by searching their About Us section in their website. Warning, it's a little creepy and it gets creepy real fast. Like, you click on that and it gives you Midsommar type vibes like almost off the bat. And while very informative about their strange but peaceful beliefs, they failed to mention the child abuse cases, the child labor law violations, and even racist beliefs.
Legal battle is just beginning between Vermont authorities and a small fundamentalist Christian group that settled in that state. At the heart of their dispute is what church members call loving discipline, prescribed by the Bible. Some authorities, however, call it child abuse.
These crimes were noted by officials investigating and whistleblowers who noted children working long hours in factories, farms, and even the deli itself. This is only worsened by the cult's corporal punishment for unruly children. A household rod made out of plastic or sometimes even metal was used to strike them if they were to misbehave or simply do something they felt warranted it. And let's just say if you're looking for more about this cult's atrocities, you don't have to look very hard at all. Additionally, they viewed slavery as a marvelous opportunity to prove themselves to the 12 nations. Yeah, it's just a big ol' getting worse sandwich. That sandwich joke was very unintentional. I did not mean that. Okay, well, this isn't gonna make it look any better for me not trying to make jokes because this is all due to the curse of Ham, which is a Bible story where slavery was used as punishment for a transgression. It was only natural they became a deli. So yeah, very evil, and they justify any person of color in their group as people who have proven themselves to be worthy. Also, finally, their courting ritual is absolutely ridiculous. Now, when you initially express emotions with one another, you now have the entire cult having the jurisdiction to stick around you for every single hangout that you will have until you are eventually married. But don't worry, after the very awkward waiting period, you guys can then finally get married and then be permitted to hold hands in public without everybody being around. Doesn't sound problematic at all. Oh, and also don't miss out on that killer wedding, no pun intended again, because it's supposed to reenact when Yeshua comes back for his bride and basically brings the apocalypse with him. Don't worry, I'm sure it'll be fun at some point.
I would not have known.
Now, I can be here forever punching down at this disgusting cult and all of their evil beliefs, but we have a bunch of other ones to bring our attention to, so let's move on from this loathsome cult. Now, luckily, our next cult actually made it a point to avoid all evils done against minors. However, their name will actually live on forever in infamy. Known simply as Heaven's Gate, its beliefs combine Christianity and aliens. They would relate the comet of the time, Hale-Bopp, approaching Earth as their marker of Earth's recycle.
We'll title this tape Planet Earth About to be Recycled. Your only chance to evacuate is to leave with us. Planet Earth about to be recycled.
The only way to avoid this and reach the next level of existence was to dispose of their earthly vessels ritualistically and hitch a ride on this comet, which also for some reason cost $5.75. Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles led this doomsday cult in the 1970s, massing several hundred followers. They also claimed that both of their earthly vessels were inhabited by the same alien spirit as Jesus. And the people believed this. People were not only following them in poverty and living in tents at times, but also allowing them full access to their credit cards because nothing says belief like money. But what really got them their doo-doo stain in history was how they ended. In October 1996, the cult somehow purchased a 9,200 square foot mansion called The Monastery in California for $7,000 rent a month. They also purchased alien abduction insurance that had a $1 million payout per person if they were abducted, tested on, or impregnated by aliens. But suddenly, something was brought to Marshall's attention that pushed everything over the edge of reason.
Now, the thing that puzzles me is they can't be ordinary streetlights. They're going off now, right?
Yeah,
one drop.
went off.
All right, you tell me what it is.
On March 13th in 97, unidentified lights rose above Phoenix, Arizona, and were spotted, causing mass hysteria in the public and Applewhite himself. This prompted him to record a video on their final exit during Hale-Bopp's comet's closest proximity to Earth. On March 22nd through the 23rd, Applewhite and his 38 followers recorded their exit videos, donned identical black tracksuits with the now infamous Nike decades, and exited their vessels. In 3 waves, they would use a sedative and use plastic bags to induce asphyxiation. The next group would then come in to remove the bags and set up their other member laying in bed with the purple cloth over them for privacy. This was quickly evident to investigators when they found the final 2 people simply lying on the floor with the bags still over their head. On March 26th, an anonymous tip from a person who received their final messages was called into the police. A lone deputy entered the monastery and noted multiple bodies and a very pungent odor. Although their website offers a very vague and supernatural position against their actions. They also have a very different meaning to this terrible act, stating that the definition isn't to simply punch your ticket, but actually to turn against the next level when it is offered. So yeah, evil cult type shit. The worst part is, the scientist who discovered the comet actually called it and said that there might be some events similar to this because comets are such a strange and supernatural thing to people who don't really study them as a living. Oh yeah, and apparently Lil Uzi wanted to make like an album cover that had the Heaven's Gate logo on it, but the people who owned the website said like, no, that's copyright, you can't do that, so he just quickly changed one of his album covers to be normal. Yeesh, and on that note, before we move on to our final heavy cult, let's talk about some fun, weird ones. Who else better to kick us off than the Brethren, aka the Garbage Eaters? They go by a few names, but the important part about them is that they are an apocalyptic cult focused on purifying themselves of worldly attachments to properly move on. One of their many scriptures used to support an anti-materialistic lifestyle is Luke 14:33. So likewise, whoever he be of you that forsaketh not all that he hath, he cannot be my disciple. Followers are forced to completely uproot their lives and move into a cult, and in some cases give all of their money to the cult so it can be put into a mass of funds that the elders control and spend on clothing repairs, traveling expenses, and spices. But hold on. Why are they called the Garbage Eaters, you may ask? Well, some of the disciples have actually been noted eating food that was thrown out in garbage cans, and despite not going against their doctrine, they don't shower regularly, and they have actually refused all dental hygiene care. Yeah, some stinky guys. And as the final cherry on top of this already tossed out cake, they are not allowed to make images of any kind. Yeah. They can color in lines though. They just can't draw. Our next one, as absurd as it is actually probably our most harmless one that we have on this list. In 1963, a Vietnamese monk established a floating pagoda south of Vietnam, and there he meditated, only subsisting on coconuts. Thus, his coconut ship and his coconut kingdom blossomed. There, he and his 4,000 followers practiced a Christianity-Buddhist mix of religion. The government of Saigon even respected him and his floating kingdom, calling him a man of religion. Sadly, though, communist officials in 1975 saw this as a cult and promptly banned it, and our coconut ship passed in 1990. It now sadly floats as a fun tourist attraction. Although I will say, their flag is in desperate need of a rework. I can't even show it here on the channel, but I think you can put it together with context clues. And for our last silly one, we actually have a pretty cool piece of armor made in Roman Egypt. This awesome crocodilian armor was made in manifold Egypt in the 3rd century AD for cult processions. It now resides where every culturally significant piece of history ends up. The British Museum. And if you guys have been enjoying this look into the bizarre cults, why not consider joining this one here in the corner? Hit that subscribe button and leave a like down there below if you guys have been liking this video. I'm doing my best to put out more videos as frequently as possible, but you know how it is, a little difficult when you have a job. But I hope you guys have been enjoying what I've been able to put out so far, and without further ado, let's get on to our last cult. We have the deadly cult of Shinrikyo. I'm probably saying it wrong, but it's spelled A-U-M. Starting as simply a yoga school in 1984 Japan, by 89 it gained many followers, and most notably those from elite universities. This quickly gained it the reputation as a religion for the elite, and this included bureaucrats, police, and even some military members. They preached a Buddhist Christian religion with an added twist of being tailored towards the educated and intelligent. Strangely, their start was wholesome and centered around self-betterment through natural means like exercise, balanced meals, and positivity. They even published some anime and manga to help spread the word. And at the helm was a man known as Shoko Asahara. He called himself the Lamb of God and the next enlightened one. Under his rule, initiations involving hallucinogenics and even shock therapy while hanging upside down were conducted, and it didn't take long at all for things to spiral down at an insane rate. The threat of a nuclear apocalypse was written into the doctrine, and it didn't take very long for the cult to then spread into paranoia. Those who tried to leave at this point simply couldn't out of fear of being assassinated. Mind you, by this point, the group now committed numerous financial crimes and murdered one member who tried to leave in 89. Anti-cult lawyer Susumi Sakamoto threatened to sue the group and bankrupt. It sadly failed, and so he went on the talk show to call attention to his horrible findings, although this video was secretly shown to Aum and the followers. The group urged the channel not to broadcast it, and at the same time, the lawyer's wife and child went missing. It was later discovered that they were murdered and dumped separately by cult members. However, now, the cult was in the spotlight, and the law was onto them. This didn't stop the cult at all from doubling down in their efforts. They actually manually wiretapped into the 4th largest telecommunications network for information. Additionally, they began to manufacture chemical agents to use against specific targets like judges or anybody who posed a threat to them. They also tried to manufacture 1,000 AK-47s, only to manufacture one by reverse engineering and learning how to do it. Yeah, the sudden jump to the extremes in this cult led to a cascade of crimes that could honestly have its own video, but I'll do my best to give it a good overview. On the night of June 27th, 1994, a converted refrigerator truck released sarin gas into a neighborhood where multiple judges lived who would oversee a case that would go against the cult. 8 people were killed in this attack and over 500 people were injured. Multiple ex-members who were assisting other members leaving the cult and cult spies were attacked by members with multiple powerful chemical compounds. One such assassination even involved disposing of a body in an industrial microwave incinerator. And for that last one, the person even said if they went missing, it was the cult's fault for his disappearance. But that is sadly not even the worst of it. The worst of it comes from the cult's close, yet again.
It was rush hour when the sarin gas began to spread through Japan's subway system, released from plastic bags onto 5 crowded trains.
On March 20th, 1995, the cult would release sarin gas into 5 subway trains, killing 13 commuters and seriously injuring as many as 6,000 people. This was the final straw for authorities, and they decided to do persistent and coordinated attacks against the cult compounds. In retaliation, the cult tried to leave police off of their trail by doing another coordinated attack in Tokyo. However, this one actually backfired on them, so much so that police were actually able to connect more locations from this attack. These raids revealed LSD, meth, anthrax, and even truth serum, as well as a military helicopter. But the best discovery came in May 16th of that year. Ashihara was found hiding between the walls of one of the complexes. That same day, a Tokyo governor's secretary lost their fingers due to a parcel explosive. Asahara was sentenced to death, as well as several other senior members and 13 other members. But this didn't stop multiple lingering members from doing pop-up chemical attacks occasionally. But yeah, this cult is absolutely no joke, so much so that the FBI put them on a terrorist watch list. They were only removed as recent as May 20th, 2022. Now, I don't talk about these cults to give any sort of platform for power, similar to how I don't talk about those loser serial killers. However, it struck me as so bizarre that this final cult could be seen as such a peaceful religion and end up owning a military helicopter doing multiple terrorist attacks. And on that fun note, thank you all so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe for more spooky content like this. I've been doing my best to hit all the bases of paranormal, supernatural, and true crime type of things, but if you guys have an idea for a video, please by all means leave it down there in the comments below, or just say hi. I love talking to you guys. And as always, everybody, stay spooky. Bye-bye.